Kia ora tātou. Thanks so much for coming at short notice today. And of course you know by now who our new head coach for the All Blacks from 2024 is, Scott Robertson. So I want to congratulate Scott on his appointment. It's come following presentation to the board at our board meeting this morning. And I confirm that the board was unanimous in supporting Scott as our incoming head coach from 2024. I'm really very pleased that it's been a robust process, delighted to be able to conclude it today, and I'm going to hand over to Robbo for some further comments.
Thank you, Dame Patsy. Kia ora tātou. Welcome also to home of rugby here in Wellington. Great to have you all coming into New Zealand Rugby to celebrate, which is a really special and important day for our organisation as we look to congratulate Scott on his appointment. We're delighted to have him coming on board to take over the role as All Black coach from 2024. We know this means a huge amount to him, how special the All Blacks is to him as a person and his family, and we just want to recognise that significant support he has from his family as well, and we know they're incredibly proud of his appointment too. Also want to recognise the incumbent All Black coaching team and Ian Foster and all of his staff and the team as they look to head towards Rugby World Cup 2023 in France. They have our 100% support as they go into that tournament, and we're looking forward to working with them over the next 6 months to do everything we can to make sure that tournament's a huge success for the All Blacks and New Zealand Rugby, and a tournament that the entire country can be proud of. So without further ado, I will pass over to Scott now for comments, and I think we're going to take some questions after that. Thanks.
Cheers, Dame Patsy. Thanks, Mark. Oh, it's good to be here, everyone. Look, I officially want to start off as All Black 974. To be able to coach the All Blacks means a lot to me. I've been preparing, getting ready for this opportunity for a long period of time, and just reiterate what Mark said. When my time starts, I'll be preparing as well as I possibly can, but my full respect and probably professional, the boundaries that's required with the current group, and making sure they set up so they can perform at this Rugby World Cup and go away and perform and get the World Cup for the All Blacks. So it's great to be here today, but I understand my roles and responsibilities, but extremely excited to make the phone calls to my mum and dad, Mo and Joe. It's pretty special. They're an emotional couple, and my wife Jane and my kids. So it's been a big 48 hours. Been here all day yesterday in a suit and all day today in a suit and presenting to a panel and then to the board, and here we are now. So thank you.
Scott, can you talk us through the last 48 hours and when you actually told and who told you?
I'll probably just signed the papers probably an hour or so ago. That's sort of how recent it is. Look, I've been preparing for the interview for probably the last 3 weeks, making sure they got everything covered. They were pretty clear in that they wanted me to cover in that presentation. So prepared as deeply as I possibly could so I could make sure I got my authentic self across and who they were going to get, and also cover off everything that they required. Came up yesterday with the panel and then today with the board, and here we are.
Was there any point last year perhaps when you considered that might not happen for you, you might walk away?
I never thought I'd walk away as such, but the potential, you start to look at options and what's going to happen. I made it pretty clear that was my last year with the Crusaders, and I wanted to become an international coach, and the process is where we are now. So look, I'm pretty loyal. As I said before, as a proud player, now as a coach is something I've worked hard for.
And have you got your coaching team sorted, and can you announce that?
Yeah, I think it's one part of it. Look, we're going through that at the moment. We started those conversations. We couldn't really have those beforehand. So we've only literally like I said, got to a point we are now before we'll start those conversations. But look, I've got my preferred group here. Yeah.
Scott,
Yeah.
what are you going to do differently for the All Blacks as a coach?
As a
compared to
coach?
Ian Foster?
Oh, well, we're different people, different coaches, so we'll bring in different aspects. He's extremely successful, and his time as a coach, and I have been sort of doing their own ways. Like I think, how I leave my mark on the group is, what I presented on today. I can go through the presentation again if you want, but I think, the way I look and view the game, we're different. The way I've created the culture is going to be different, and the game might be totally a bit different. So there's going to be a natural innovation with just the different ways we look at the game. But
It was a tough season for the All Blacks last year. How big is the task for you to get the All Blacks back on track to number one in the world?
Oh, we've got a long way. Lots got to happen. They've obviously got a World Cup to have to go and get. And then like for myself, I've still got a World Cup, a super around competition, and then before we get our first test matches against England, so there's plenty of time to look at how things we can get better at, or there's some great stuff already. So you just got to weigh it up. I've got time. Yeah.
Scott, what's your relationship with Ian? Have you been able to speak to him? I mean, how has that sort of gone?
Yeah, I've had a conversation with him in the last couple of weeks. I'm just connected. Look, we're really professional in that regard. We're in a coaching professional that's pretty brutal. Results based, but I never get in front of anyone with relationships. My first thing is to pick up the phone and be a man first before anything else. So, it's good.
Mark, just a question for you. How many people did you interview for this role?
Oh, look, we're not getting into the details of the, around the process, number of candidates. But as Dame Patsy has signalled, we are really comfortable with the number of conversations we had with people around the wider coaching environment as it relates to New Zealand and this potential role with the All Blacks. And we did a lot of due diligence behind the scenes. So we are we're very happy with where we've landed, both in terms of the outcome and obviously the process we worked through.
It's my understanding Ian's in Europe at the moment.
Yes.
Have you had a chance to communicate him?
I was travelling for a period, and then he's gone travelling for a period, obviously with what he's doing. So we spoke before I headed away. We've stayed in regular text contact there, and so we're in touch.
Was it an easy decision, Mark, in the end?
Oh, look, like I say, there are a number of quality coaches that New Zealand has produced in recent times, obviously, but for the things we are looking for a candidate to take the game forward, Razor is a really compelling choice, and we're delighted he's bringing, we believe, a fresh set of eyes, huge energy, capacity for innovation, deep understanding of our system. So that relates positively to alignment and integration across the game. He's coached our under-20s, he coached at NPC level, so deep connection to the game and understanding of key stakeholders we have as it relates to players as well as our different provincial unions and Super Rugby clubs. So really well-rounded skill set and relationship set there, what we think he'll bring to the role as well.
If I can just add there, you asked if it was a tough decision. Well, of course it was, because it's so important to New Zealand rugby and all of New Zealand. So we took it very seriously. And so we made sure that it was thorough and robust. And I think the proof is that today the board were unanimous in the decision that Scott would be our next rugby coach for the All Blacks.
At the start of the month, you said it would likely take around 4 to 6 weeks. What has made it a quicker process?
Well, you always like to hedge. We don't like to disappoint. So it's always better to estimate a little bit longer than you think. But I think we always hoped to be able to work to a timetable pretty close to this one, because it fitted in well with our board program for the year. And so I'm pleased that we're able to complete
Was
it.
Scott the only one that presented to the board?
Well, I'm not going to go into the detail of the process because there were lots of elements to it, and I don't think that's helpful.
Jamie Joseph was obviously a contender at some point. Did he pull out?
So, no, he definitely didn't pull out. We had a contested process. That's all I'll say about that.
Scott, there was obviously links for you to coach Fiji, other international sides. Did they go anywhere? How serious did those talks with any other nations or places go?
It's pretty irrelevant now. I'm here now, mate, so I think that's what we're focused on. Look, there was options, yeah. But this is my preferred, so, yeah.
The suggestion is obviously that you agitated for this position to be sort of ahead of the World Cup.
Yeah, look, you're talking about at the moment, probably about a month ago.
In the build-up to this decision?
Oh, yeah. Look, it probably wasn't I could have been better around at the moment, and in the media a little while ago, there was no posturing or anything involved with that. What I was trying to say, something else was a bit different, so there was no maliciousness or anything like that in it, and I owned it pretty quickly, ran who I needed to, and so we moved on, yeah.
Can you understand why the incumbent might have been dissatisfied with picking his replacement ahead of time, which he thinks, undermines the All Blacks' chances this World Cup?
That's one for Robbo.
Yeah, look, that's the questions around process are ours here, and we're very clear that we believe this is the right process for an international coaching environment that is changing rapidly. So ultimately, we have owned that process. We believe it's the right thing to do. We stand by that very strongly at this time, and we understand that a lot of decisions we make are going to entail some scrutiny. And this is different. This is a change, isn't it? And as we've seen in recent times, change is harder than rugby. But like I say, when we look across the international environment, the different things that are happening around the international coaching market, this was the right thing to have done. And we at different times can't control everything that's said about the game, or certainly control things that are said by others. But we worked, I guess, with a lens of being incredibly respectful and caring to our people. We wanted to move at speed where we could, and we wanted to keep things as confidential as we could as well. Unfortunately, things don't always pan out for what you plan for, but at the time when we made the decisions through to now, we worked very, very swiftly, and like I say, we're comfortable with where we've landed.
Mike, did Scott's popularity with the rugby public play a factor into picking him?
Look, we looked at a range of different attributes that we were looking for in our head coach from 2024 onwards. Some of the things I've already spoken to in terms of the attributes we saw as being really important to an incoming coach. But ultimately, he's got an incredible winning record. He's got an incredible track record of success. And that is where the main focus of the panel and board sat in terms of what we're looking for from 2024 onwards. So a combination of those things that I talked about earlier, and then track record of success in very recent times across a range of different teams, under 20s, NPC, different environments I've talked about.
And you say you have 100% support in Foster and the current group leading up to the World Cup, at the World Cup. But how can you have 100% support when you're replacing him?
Well, we're not. He is, as we said through last year, he has 100% support through to the World Cup. We've been very clear and consistent on that. We're doing everything we possibly can to make sure this team has all the support it can to be successful, and we'll continue to do that. We're like everyone in New Zealand, that we want only the best for this team over the next 6 or 7 months. So we'll carry on doing that. This is a day to recognise, Scott's appointment, and then tomorrow we're back into doing everything we can around all of our national programs, but especially the All Blacks in a Rugby World Cup year.
Were you able to speak to Ian Foster to give him this news before it went public?
Well, like I say, I think it's been pointed out a few times, he's in a different time zone at the moment. We've certainly been in contact, we've been in contact recently to reach out and have that chat if we can.
Does he know?
Depends if he's awake.
I don't know what time it is in Paris, but
he's going to wake up and find this out.
He has been communicated with his announcement coming today, like a lot of key people, partners have. Yeah.
Scott, you will have seen the pressure and the scrutiny that all that coaches under over the years. Do you feel you're ready for that?
Yeah, look, I've been head coaching for 10 years now. fortunate, like I mentioned before, to play for the All Blacks, understand from a national and international level what's required. Look, I think it's part of the reason getting the job already. You know, I've got awesome support at home. Not going to get right people around me with the coaching staff and the management group. And I just get excited by this sort of stuff, you know, that's what gets me going. Like, it's really important that I want to take this next step up and be ambitious, which I am. And it's great timing.
There was a bit of talk, I don't know how accurate it was, that international experience was a big key to this job.
Yeah.
Did you have to convince the panel that it wasn't?
It was one of the questions. How do I put this? It was around, my answer was around, you know, continued success compared to international experience. So the balance of the two. So bringing the success with me and my formula and how I've done it, and also the selection, the relationships I built, so the whole package around it, and giving examples that people have done it without international experience that have come in and been successful straight away because of their continued success. So, yeah, that's how I shaped it.
Scott, how much of a struggle has it been balancing your commitments with the Crusaders through this process with everything else that's been going on? And are you confident that the rest of the season will be smooth sailing and keep full attention as well?
Look, I sort of back my experience in the coaching group. I keep them fully informed. You know, Crusader Land and coaching staff down there have been great. You know, a lot of stuff's at home. Getting in front of Jane and going through the odd slide here and there, you know, I know it off by heart pretty well. And, you know, the behavioural questions, you start to make sure you just have a few really good clear ones in your head so you know that you can revert to a story. And, look, I just wanted to make sure they got me in the interview, but also from a high performance point of view and the ability that, you know, what I will deliver. So, look, I was well prepared and you know, just really thankful for that they felt that I was ready.
Dame Patsy, are you able to tell us who was on the selection panel?
It's really, that's part of a process that's been robust. So there's been more than the interview panel. There's been due diligence done to a large extent. Robbo, you might like to comment more. Certainly, Robbo was on it. But
yeah, we're happy to share. As Patsy said, I mean, it was a very robust process of which the panel discussion was an important part of, but certainly not the sole part of the process. But we had Dame Farah Palmer and Bailey Mackey from New Zealand Rugby Board. We had Conrad Smith. We had Eddie Kalassi from High Performance Sport New Zealand with a strong high performance coaching background. We had Mike Anthony, head of high performance, and myself.
Scott, it's a little way off now, but next year there'll be a typical post-World Cup exodus. How do you feel about the challenge of, I guess, of rebuilding the All Blacks with those players leaving?
I'll probably rephrase the rebuild. Like, you got what you got, so you've got to make sure they perform right from the start. Look, I know the lay of the land intimately. You know, I understand, you know, who's on contract, who's off contract, and, you know, with full respect with the group that they've got now. And, you know, we'll talk a lot about this to make sure we set up to make sure this group's right, but also have an understanding what's required for the next few years for the contracts, so the players keep some continuity. But yeah, that excites me. You know, all the young ones understand what's required to be an All Black and get them ready.
Yes, what's your overriding emotion to this? Is this something that you've been wanting for a long time? It's been a roller coaster to get here. Is it relief? Is it excitement? What's the prevailing emotion?
Oh, probably when I signed it, that's probably to give a pen in my hand. That's all. And you know, that marked a big moment for me. There was, the pen was in the hand, and, you know, look, I like to think, you know, I think the last sort of 3 to 4 years has been a big part of me and my growth and how I've reacted. You know, I asked your players to do it, so I had to as well, and I've stayed in the fight. And you know, here I am now. I'm really proud of myself, but also all the support that I've had over a long period of time. I've got some awesome mentors, as I mentioned before, awesome home, you know, family life, and you know, I'm really privileged and honoured for this. Yeah.
Scott, you played for the All Blacks. Is this a bigger moment for you?
In some ways, I still get a little bit. Ask me that before the first Test match, eh? This is one step at a time. I'm, you know, like, you know, I'm getting the whistle out just yet. So look, this is the first part of it, and we'll get the emotional side of it a little bit later on. But yeah, there was a few deep breaths, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No one seemed to see you in Wellington the last couple of days. Were you hiding or undercover?
Mate, they put me in this room out the back there for like 3 hours, man. I had jandals and board shorts on for like ages, and so it's been, yeah, it's just what it is. It was a part of it, and look, I'm just glad to be sitting here and, you know, beside these two, and you know, just mate, stoked. You know, like I'm really stoked that I've been given this opportunity.
Did you feel the love from the New Zealand rugby public? Did you sort of feel them willing you on to this job a little bit?
At times it felt like an election. There's no voting boxes or anything, but you know, you're sort of, I don't know, we're passionate, aren't we? People have got their opinion, and the ones that, you know, were positive would, you know, come up, and look, that's great, and I know that not 100% of the crowd are going to be on your side, but like, we're passionate, you know, we're in behind it. It's great that people can have their thoughts and their feelings, and they pick the team and they select it, and they want the best for the country, just like I did. So you ride that, you know, it's part of who we are and our DNA, and look, I love it. Yeah.
And will your breakdancing tradition continue with the All Blacks?
Mate, I'm
Only when he wins the World Cup.
every 4 years is okay for me. Yeah.
So Scott talks about it in terms of passion, but having observed him today and discussed it with the board, we saw it as inspirational. So
Thanks,
we
Dave.
look forward to the inspirational journey that he will take the All Blacks and Aotearoa New Zealand on over the next 4-year cycle.